It's not every day a Callie braves a Terran establishment, the esteemed Thera says as she approaches the guest table, having wrapped up her performance with flying, illuminescent colours. I dearly hope Brad hasn't been a sour greeter. Up yours, Nightlight. I've been nothing but a charmer. It's just that we've been waiting on you to quit jerking your ego in front of the crowds. Again? The male Terran responds, as he leans back with his arms rested back up on the seat's ridge. Patrons come to listen. Who am I not to oblige? Now let us keep the colourful language out of business dealings, the trooper counters, as the server brings a specially soft chair for her to sit down in. Apologies for the wait. Chuck perks up, giving the hostess a respectful bounce. Oh, no apologies necessary, and the service here has been nothing short of first rate. Thank you very much for seeing us without notice ahead of time, she replies, tapping into her political training. Splendid to hear. This establishment may have Terrans in mind, however all are welcome. Even the odd brave Callie with newcomers to the stars at her side. What brings you in search of our services? I've been informed your contact was Denver, Thera says, as a drink is placed down in front of her. I'll be forthright. Our Terran crew member is the only connection we have with Denver, and from my understanding it was to a limited capacity. That being said, the information that led to you was freely offered by those who had guardianship over Denver's items, Jack explains. Yes, Simone Thatch. Her records show that she's from the same colony, and that she is being court-martialed from the Terran Union, and that she was recently featured on a conspiratorial net podcast, claiming to have the runaway princess in attendance. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that now, would you? Thera replies, her chorus of her voice whispering as a crowd of devious conspirators. Feeling her heart pick up the pace, Chuck makes note of how truly difficult it would be to make an escape from this establishment, especially the position they were in, up and away from any easy exit, completely surrounded by those of the trooper's employment. A trooper who already knows exactly who she is, and that trying to outright deny would be pointless. The Callie almost preferred the first Terran bar she found trouble in at this moment. Ow, since when is a fringe podcast built up on misguided conjecture taken as fact? Surely the desire to be thrusted into the limelight would cause any host to delve into fabrications of all sorts in order to gain a greater following. Regardless, I have severe doubts that you wish to cause any sort of conflict despite what you may believe. I am accompanied by representatives of a newly recognized species, whom I must remind you are under the protection and cooperation with Central Galactic and the Terran Union. Besides, it isn't necessarily credits that you are seeking, correct? The Callie lays out sternly. A state of contemplative consideration marks the trooper for a short moment, but she soon casts it away. Credits are undoubtedly useful, but you are indeed very much correct. We seek artifacts and lost knowledge. To construct the past the Central has either failed to record, or purposely scrubbed away, she grunts. Yes, we relish the thrill of the hunt, but rarely of living people. We are no bounty hunters, so be assured your presence here isn't threatened. In fact, that just makes me all the more curious. What could someone like you have, I wonder? My mesoglia itches at the possibilities. Relaxing just a little bit, Chuck nods and presents her datapad. Then you are in the most fortunate position, for I have what may very likely be the most significant discovery in galactic history, and very possibly more. I do not say this lightly, and I would not approach someone like you unless I seriously believed it. What you may help uncover could shake the very foundations of the stars themselves, she expounds. Leaning forward with incredible interest, the troopers lie swallow in anticipation. I'm ready to be convinced of such, she says. Well, let's start with this. Have you heard of a Manarian? Chuck speaks, as she delves into her own personal notes. A shift of peculiar seriousness comes across the trooper. Less entertained by what the Callie propped up, already believing there's truly something special to the claim. Indeed. That term has come up on a few sparse finds. There is yet to be any indication of what it means or stands for, Thera replies. Oh? What were these precious finds, if I may ask? Chuck asks, now mutually curious. It came up in a few degraded and corrupted logs of a few derelict vessels, mostly ancient Noxy tech, Brad answers with a wave of his hand. All we could make out of any of it was a general widespread negative connotation. My money is on a plague or networking virus. Not quite, Chuck says, though there is a disturbing element of that, in a way. Fascinating. Congratulations, my dear Callie. I'm already inclined to accept this mysterious job of tracking down this station debris. What are the initial coordinates you have, and how did you come across them? Thera inquires. I'd love to inform you of the nature of what a Manarian is referring to, and all the information regarding it. However, I prefer we come to an agreement beforehand. What I am privy to is already sensitive, and shouldn't be so carelessly shared. I hope you understand, Chuck counters, before fully deactivating her datapad. Brad looks over to his boss with an arched eyebrow, curious to see how she will proceed. She seems to pout while drinking from her beverage, annoyed that this Callie wasn't so foolish as she first expected. That is fair. Depending on the significance of the find, we won't require a credit payment. We will require to be able to copy and back up any data we discover, as that suits as a payment. But if we have found nothing, a fee for our time and efforts will be necessary. Unless, of course, you'd be willing to pay with a scrap of what you know. A small taste. Something that may make our involvement worthwhile, regardless of the outcome, she poses. Chuck thinks on it, deciding that although she can afford the credit, she no longer holds the same resources she once did. Perhaps sharing something that can push these seekers into their optimal motivation will prove effective in every sense. Manarians were a species, and the information we hold is dated back 10,000 years ago. I hope that will suffice until we can come to an agreement. Seems like a hell of a promising lead, boss, Brad says with an accepting tone. Indeed. Thera mulls over. Almost too promising, but I can think of no reason to turn away from this opportunity. Very well. You will have the history seekers under contract, on one condition, she says, as she lifts her Rama coolant up and gently swims it above the table. Her grasper is a plume of fur-like branching strands used as manipulators. You allow me another manner of taste. Chuck cautiously eyes the grasper, unsure if she should proceed. The trooper's manipulators are well known to be hypersensitive to taste, and can process a whole accurate narrative based on the molecules and particles left on someone. Though it's limited without context, there's a lot a trooper can glean from such contact. It's compromising. Very compromising. And unless the trooper is incredibly well trusted and honest, it's difficult to ascertain how much the trooper actually gained from the contact. The Callie thinks back, trying to recall if there is anything she touched that may give away what she already knows about the Manarians. Nothing comes to mind, so with great hesitancy she accepts. Very well, she utters, hoping it's the right choice to make. Allowing the trooper's strands to weave and envelop her grasper, Chuck watches as the trooper's expressions change from several states of confusion and realization, some subtle, others very much not so. Satisfied, though that may be the wrong term for it, the trooper pulls away, her mind in a million places at once. You, she initially says, trying to focus her train of thought, certainly have an intimate relationship with this female Terran, and have only suffered a non-related arm injury since? Colour me impressed. Chuck's eyes flashed against her will as she otherwise retains her composure. Oh yes, my injury occurred a month ago. My arm is free from the sling, but is still rather sore. Shall we compile an official contract? She asks. Dude, it's like you've done this sort of thing before, Dave says, as Simone holds herself in a standing position against the bed. Gone through the ringer a few times. Got to get everything moving, she responds, as her legs, arms and back shake from lack of use. I think I should be back to normal in 2 weeks. Optimistic. I like it. I induced scientific beefcake muscle stimulations while you were out, so you're welcome, man. Simone smirks as she strains to walk side to side, trying to remember her sense of balance again. Thanks, Dave. It's also great that my dad was a literal physical therapist. Simone grunts as she slowly squats and struggles to push herself back up in a standing position. Muscles lose about 12% of strength for every week when fucking bedridden. And look at you go, still kicking ass. After a nearly failed squat, Simone plants her top half on the bed to keep herself from collapsing to the floor. She pants, annoyed by her sudden state of fatigue. Just got to keep moving, she sighs, before using her trembling arms to pull herself up to sit on the cushion. Remember, it's not just your bod that needs tending to. That brick of a noggin you got is going to need a bit of rest while we gradually get you back into the flow of things again. I know, but I want to remedy the bod first. Man, I'm hungry, Simone responds. Your recovering muscles are definitely going to need the grub to do it, man. Let me just get 7 to bring over... No, just ask them to help me walk to the mess hall, Simone corrects. Can do, brah. Not even 30 seconds later, the hovering chef emerges through the medbay door. I have prepared something for you who has been informed of your fully resumed consciousness, the bot announces, as they move to the bedside and extend their bulky mechanical arm in a downward L shape. Thanks, bud, Simone chuckles, as she takes hold of the offered appendage and pulls herself back up in a standing orientation. Should I be brought back here or my room? She asks Dave. Back here, my guy, just so I can creepily stare at your brain matter for a few days. Right, alright, the redhead concedes, before slowly taking several assisted steps towards the door. Thanks for everything you do, Dave, really. You're a good friend. As she and the awoken bot leaves, the auto-surgeon processes freeze up for a few nanoseconds. The machine immediately runs a diagnostic, but cannot find the source of the strange anomaly. Possibly a hiccup in the personality matrix? If that's the case, then deleting or reconstructing it would be necessary. However, Dave doesn't do that. Not for any particular reason, he just doesn't, completely disregarding that the oddity occurred at all to move on to matters with higher priority. Thera accepts the mutually signed contract on a fresh datapad. Wonderful. My ship should be prepared to embark by the end of the standard day. We will go to the provided coordinates and start doing what we do best, she informs, as she passes the datapad along to Brad for safekeeping. Oh? Why would you need to physically travel to the original coordinates? Chuck inquires. For fun, my dear Callie friend. I doubt we will physically find anything that may lead to the eventual wreck site, but it can't hurt to see if there are any remaining treasures while we work on a prediction path, especially if these Manarians are involved. Even a scrap of metal from their own tech would be a miraculous artifact in itself, the trooper answers, as she leans back, content with the possibilities. This may very well be the defining work of our career, and so we will not squander such an opportunity. You have my word on that. That is splendid to hear, Thera. We will be counting on you and your team, and expect periodic updates, even if there's nothing of note to report, Chuck reminds her gently. Nothing new there, Brad comments, while he scrolls through the agreement. Brad, although the contract is final, it's imperative that we maintain some sort of professionalism, Thera scolds tiredly. Rolling his eyes, Brad grants a non-enthusiastic nod. Whatever you say, boss, he grumbles. Before the trooper can lay into him once more, Meek speaks up. Have question, if no mind, she says hesitantly. Of course, Thera redirects, falling back into pleasantries. Not ever see kind like you, grand new to stars, much ignorant. Are you Deathworlder too? The female grat asks. Thera sings an amused laugh at such a preposterous inquiry, however soon corrects herself. No, in fact I dare say that the trooper are the furthest from such a designation. Not only are we frail, but our world is renowned for being a gentle paradise, she answers, as she stirs her drink playfully. She might as well be fluttering tissue paper, Brad inserts, both seemingly amused and annoyed by the fact. Then, you're not scared of Inja? Meek presses. It's a concern, of course, but I have a rebel of Terrans around me at all times to keep that from happening, the trooper replies, as one of her extremities glances the top of Brad's head, who pushes it away with the back of his hand. Not that I don't get hurt from time to time, but unlike most of my species, I place a high value on adventure in life. I find myself rather bored without a small thrill of risk. I'm sure the Callie here knows a similar feeling. You can say that, I suppose, Chuck agrees. Mickey nods and struggles to form her next question, mulling over the words she knows. How you meet Terrans? Start singing tavern? She formulates. Now, that's a long story, Thera sighs as she gets lost in the recollection. This bitch outright purchased this place, a half-decent ship, and hired a band of washed-up Terrans with no prospects to fulfill our unhealthy need to discover the mysteries of the universe, Brad summarizes, with a devilish wink to his boss. Crude, but yes. However, I'll add that those Terrans I hired were a defunct private investigator firm, a skill set that I knew would prove useful. Thera responds, clearly annoyed by her subordinate. Apologies for Brad's demeanor. He is quite cunning and smarter than he presents himself as. I'm your right hand for a reason, Nightlight, he chuckles with a wave of his hand. Chuck lightly scratches at the sides of her head, amused. No need for apologies. Our Terran shares a similar disposition. Believe it or not, I find it rather charming, she replies with a soft bounce. Filled with pride and validation, the male Terran crosses his arms and gives the trooper a smug raised eye tuft. I believe it, Thera mumbles, avoiding visual contact so as to not grant the man's ego any affirmation. I like her, Brad notifies. I don't care, Brad, the trooper sharply counters, sending the Terran into grizzled barks of amusement. We will be sure to send you a notification once we arrive on site. I look forward to working with you in this operation. Unfortunately, I must excuse myself to prepare for the voyage. Please, enjoy the Nomad services and performances while you're here. It's been a pleasure, Thera says, before standing up, soon followed by Brad. Thank you for accepting our terms. Indeed, we anticipate hearing from you in the near future, Chuck responds, before the 3 members of the QuipChap crew are left at the table. Went good, Nodrin says cheerfully. Yes, much good, Meek agrees. Will you watch more music? Feeling a bit guilty, Chuck shifts in her seat. That went better than expected. Hopefully they truly are a group worth trusting. And if you two really wanted to stay for another show, that would be perfectly fine. But if it's alright, I prefer to return to the ship. I go by myself, but... She tries to explain before Grat's hand carefully lands on her shoulder. See, Simone, we understand, Mickey assures. Thank you. You're free to return here once I'm back aboard, the Kelly says, relieved. Is... okay to buy from shop, I see? On way? Nodrin inquires. Oh, that would be perfectly acceptable. You sure? Simone says with a mouthful of burger. It annoys her that she has to eat a cut-up burger with a fork, but damn does the machine chef know exactly what she likes. Even down to having the greens under the patty to keep the buns from becoming a wet, soiled mess. Seriously, why isn't this a more widespread thing? Do people just assume it's supposed to be above the bum because big companies do it to make their product more visually appealing for marketing? Getting lost in her own argument against no one else in the room, she shakes herself from it, and chuckles at the fact that she still very much feels like herself. I believe it will be a perfect form of escapism. It will also expand my creative capabilities, Seven asserts with a cranial nod. I mean, I'm totally down. I'll ask around and see who else is willing to give it a shot. It's mostly a Terran thing, so it may be hard for the others to wrap their heads around. Simone responds with a sluggish shrug. I have already inquired for interest, Est. I will plan it accordingly, Lee, now that you are awake, Seven replies cheerily. Ah, cool, the redhead says, before forking another bite. Before she plummets the morsel into her maw, she pauses and looks to the bot. Seven? Yes? You've said that you'll never harm a living creature, or at least do everything in your power not to. What if you were placed in a situation where one of us would die if you didn't kill our attacker? Simone asks, surprising the bot with the out-of-nowhere question. I would process all potential ways to hold Old up to my convictions. However, if the conclusion was nothing but your hypothetical scenario, the well-being of my friends will take precedence, Seven answers. And, just for mind exercise sake, what if it was one of your friends about to kill another? Simone presses. The bot is silent for a few seconds. Without context, I am uncertain of what I do, not until the moment end came, they answer honestly. What brings these lines of questions? Simone shrugs. Just curious. We see a lot of shit, and a lot of shit happens to us. Whether we like it or not, those hypotheticals aren't so out there, you know. And for the security of everyone on board, I'd like to know where you stand, she replies honestly, although she holds a bit of her concern back. I understand, Seven responds. Even as a pacifist, I promise is not to compromise the safety of the others here. Good to know, Simone says with a soft smile. This burger and fries are amazing, by the way, but cutting the fries in half may have been a bit excessive. My bad, Seven states as they glance at the platter on the table. Hey, at least they're steak fries, Simone jests, giving a weak elbow nudge into the bot's side. As hungry as she is, eating through the food proves to be a lot of unexpected effort that takes quite a bit of time. When she finally wraps up eating her first plate, the mess hall door opens with the sound of quickly approaching clatter of hooves. Simone turns just enough for a Callie to slam into her front side. Normally, she's a brick wall without even trying. In this circumstance, she might as well have been a sack of helpless potatoes. Unable to correct her already loose sense of balance, Simone flops backward and slams on the solid floor, with a confused Callie as a panicking blanket. Ouch, Simone chuckles through clenched teeth. Oh, no. Oh, I'm so sorry, Simone. I just saw that you were... Jack stammers as she moves to get off her prone Terran. With a weak grip, Simone stops the Callie by wrapping her tired arms up in an embrace. The weight of her arms alone is enough for Jack to be pressed snugly against the Terran. Good to see that you're okay too. How's the arm? The Terran says with a forgiving smile. On the brink of grey eyes, Jack burrows her face into the Terran's chest and fully hugs her back. Better. Still sore, but better, she huffs in a muffled answer. Sorry to be out for so long. Hopefully this will be the last time I wake up in the medbay, Simone jests. Chuck nods with her face still buried. I'm glad you're okay, and I'm so sorry people keep hurting you like this, she says. We'll get them back for it. Count on it, the Terran assures, as she moves a hand up to the back of the Callie's head. The Callie nods again, squeezing her love with all her might. Sorry for knocking you over, Chuck apologizes, finally looking up to see the redhead's face. Probably the only time you'll ever be able to, Simone counters with a wink. What business were you doing on the station? Chuck's eyes flash. Oh, I tracked down the history seekers from Denver's intel. They have fully agreed to assist us in tracking down the Minarian station from your vision. Chuck updates excitedly. Simone raises her eyebrows in surprise. No shit? Damn, nice work, hon. Are they pricey? She asks. Not at all. They are led by an eccentric trooper who is star-bent on rediscovering history. As long as they have digital data copies of what we find and any physical artifacts that we approve of, they'll be more than satisfied, the Callie informs. No kidding. Damn, really nice work, Simone reiterates, placing her craned head back down on the cool floor, which admittedly felt amazing in her current condition. Did I interrupt your meal? Chuck asks, peeking back at the table. Nah, Seven is making me another serving. Caligragas. Speaking of which, would you mind getting them from the kitchen? I think I'm going to need their help getting back up. Simone replies as she flops her arms back down to the floor, freeing the Callie princess. Oh, of course. I'm so sorry. I'll get them. Watching the Callie carefully stand up over her, Simone can't help but roll her eye tufts. It's all good. Totally worth this view. She tries to impishly growl, only to falter into a few coughs. Chuck's eyes simultaneously narrow and illuminate. You are so very lucky to be in the early stages of recovery, she remarks, planting her lower limbs on her hips, mimicking the Terran's own sassy gesture. Never stopped me before. Simone hoarsely laughs. Chuck shakes her head, endeared by the woman she stands over. I'll be right back, love, she says as she steps away, rocking her posterior just a bit, as she can still feel the Terran's gaze upon her. Chuckling at that, Simone attempts in vain to get up. Though she thinks it's possible for her to manage, it's sketchy at best, and risking slamming her already fucked up head into the table edge convinces her to lay back down. For the 20 seconds she was alone, she simply embraced the cold floor. It's going to be physically difficult for the next few weeks, but that doesn't bother her. In fact, she can't help but feel a sense of invincibility. She recalls the moment she was initially ambushed by the Children of Gaia. Despite wearing power armor, all it took was for her to pop off her helmet to be defeated. A small prick to the neck, then immediate blurs. Then she thinks of the crabfuck she fought in Kamoy, who had shot her in the back before declaring some sort of bullshit honorable duel. Next is this. Somehow while fighting Sam, the bitch tried to take her out with some sort of engineered brain virus. Every time, Simone beat them. Each and every... Wait. Simone reflexively tries to sit up but stops herself. The only time she was around Sam was either when she was in sealed armor, or with a medical barrier. Did someone else do it? Someone she trusted? There were so many opportunities. Simone feels her heartbeat spike and sweat begins to develop. No. Not again. Not again. She internally screams as all the faces of her home begins to be covered in a shade of corruption and betrayal. Simone? What's wrong? Laugh? Chuck's voice speaks up, breaking through the Terran's panic attack. She feels Callie's hands brush through her half-inch short head fur in calming strokes. Do you need to be returned to Dave? Simone's voice says. Blinking tears free, Simone finds the blurred visage of Chuck leaning over her. Chuck? I was wearing armor. Sam couldn't have given me the virus. She couldn't have. Chuck chirps softly and soothingly like a Callie mother to her young, having fully recognized the state her Terran is in. Simone, she damaged your helmet, remember? I can't promise it wasn't her, but Sam had the opportunity. I believe it was her. She was out to kill you, and there would have been many other more efficient methods if it was anyone else, she gently points out. That's right. That detail somehow slipped away in her rising panic. Although there's still a creeping potential doubt, Chuck is completely right. Fuck. I'm such a fucking idiot, Simone rasps, as she closes her eyes in embarrassment. I don't believe you are. You're simply reacting to what others have done. Betrayal like that hurts, and it's understandable why you feel this way, Chuck coos, as she wipes the Terran eye water from her face. But what if Sam wasn't the only one who... Simone automatically replies. We can't make those assumptions. Not without cause or a motive, okay? Chuck interjects. Okay, Simone agrees. You're right. It's just... the possibility scares the living shit out of me. Because it happened before and... Sorry. I need to calm down. Nalma's down, the redhead says as she breathes in and out slowly to help bring her heart rate back down. Chuck tilts her head as her translator is unable to tell her what Nalmaz is, but perhaps it was a Terran spiritual term that Simone was using to center herself. Regardless, it doesn't matter in this moment. How about we have Seven bring you back to the med bay so you can eat your second serving in bed? Take things easy, just for a bit, Chuck poses. Yeah, that'll work.